Welcome to Elite Broker, the podcast showcasing the leading players and stories of success from Australia's broking industry.
Hello and welcome back. I'm your host for today, Annie Kane. And in this week's episode, we're talking to one of our recent finalists from the Better Business Awards 2026 in the form of Teressa Fisk, who you might know was a finalist for the Thought Leader of the Year category this year. Now, she's a broker up in Queensland at yourfinancebroker.co and specializes in something that I think we'll be talking about increasingly over the next few years. And I'll tell you why. So recently on The Advisor, we were writing a story about what's been happening with house prices and the great Australian dream. Is it really still achievable? We've seen that the national median dwelling price has now crossed the $1 million mark. And the conversation's really gone from, I think, how do I buy a house to how do we get supply online fast enough to make it affordable? So this pressure has really triggered a massive boom in alternative housing. So we've seen inquiry volumes for things like modular builds, kit homes, tiny homes and granny flats absolutely booming. Apparently, they've surged by 50% in the last 12 months alone, with some providers seeing demand skyrocket by over 300% in states like Queensland. So the modular market alone is now worth more than $16 billion and is projected to nearly double in the next decade. But how on earth do you finance a modular or tiny home? So joining us today is a broker who specializes in bridging that gap, Teressa Fisk, the director of Your Finance Broker on Sunshine Coast. As I said, a true pioneer in the modular and alternative construction space and working closely with major lenders to really help them understand what they should be doing to help bring the great Australian dream to life for people wanting to build a smaller home. Thanks so much for joining me, Teressa. How are you going?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you on the show, and also for reaching out after the Better Business Summit 2026 that we had in Queensland last week, because at the summit, I was like, if anyone has anything interesting to talk about or anyone's doing anything interesting, reach out. And you did. And I was like, I love this so much. I want to talk about it on the podcast. So thank you for letting me bully you to come onto the podcast. But if anyone has not had the privilege of meeting you, Teressa, how long have you been broking for and why did you become a broker in the first place?
So I've been a broker for 4 years now, but I did start in the finance industry probably in my early 20s, which was a long time ago. And I worked for a bank only because I didn't want to work hospitality in weekends and public holidays anymore. So I searched for an industry I could, work Monday to Friday, and banking came up. But it was the best, 9 or 10 years of my life. I learned so much from it. And then I had my son and things kind of just went a bit sideways. I kind of was, because the job I had worked my way up to in the bank was more in a corporate role, and it sort of required me to be there early in the mornings and early at nights. So I was dropping my son at daycare in the dark and picking him up in the dark. So I had a little bit of a break from it and then just found roles to work around my son until about 4 years ago. And then I just, got back into it and started in a franchise and just sort of realized that wasn't for me. I wanted my own brand. And then, Your Finance Broker's it's just turned 3 years old.
Oh, happy birthday. I'm curious though, did you, when you were thinking, okay, I'm going to go into broking, did you actually know that broking was going to be an option for you, or how did you actually come into the industry?
I had a friend who I worked with at the bank. It's funny enough, a lot of the people from my department at the bank had became brokers. So when I was sort of looking at different options, she sort of encouraged me to come on with her at the franchise, which was amazing. And just, within a month or so, I realized the difference, between broking and banking was massive. And I really loved that option of being able to give clients more options rather than trying to fit them into, 4 products. So broking definitely had that sort of better shine to it than going back into a bank for me personally.
Yeah. And so you said as well that you kind of started off in a franchise and then you decided you wanted to do your own business. obviously when you start with a franchise, you've got like, a real kind of load of benefits in terms of you don't have to worry about your brand or your marketing. You've got people who can like do the training for you. You've got great like support networks. But as you say, you're not necessarily able to put your own brand name in there or to kind of do things that you want to do. What was it that you thought, no, I want my own business? Like, what was the main reason for it?
So when I started in the franchise, my biggest thing was to bring business into the franchise. So I started on a PAYG kind of setup, a salary for 3 months until I got fully accredited, and then I went on commission and was bringing in a lot of business, but also realizing that it wasn't essentially my business. And I had started the modular stuff back then. So I was bringing in and making a name for myself with the modular uh, finance, but just realized it didn't quite fit into where I was. And I really wanted to have my own brand and be able to sort of set my own rules and guidelines around who I wanted to connect with in certain ways. So it just seemed a lot more free for me.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about why you decided to specialize in modular in a second. But before I do,
Yeah.
obviously one of the big moves you have to make, the big first decisions you have to make as a broker is which group to join. So when you decided to go under your own brand name and your own business, how did you choose your aggregator?
So another colleague who had left the bank had gone out and started his own brand as a broker. So when I was, trying to weigh up my options, I reached out to him, and he is with AFG, and he put me on to someone at AFG, and they've been amazing. And I've been with them since. So it really, I think in this industry, especially if you've worked in banking, you will know people who have sort of taken this same avenue. So it's always good to have those people to just, throw some things at and see and see what advice they've got for you. I think that's such a great thing about this industry.
Yeah. And so when you were starting off as a broker, obviously you said, it's so different from coming from banking and then going into broking. Like, how did you find your first clients? Because you mentioned about, bringing in new clients for the franchise. Like, were you bringing over people you already knew? Was it family and friends? Were you doing any kind of advertising? Like, how did you find your first clients, both for the franchise, but then later for your own business?
Yeah, so with the franchise, they actually did have, I guess, leads coming in. So I did, I took on someone else's portfolio that had left. So I had a few deals coming from that way. And then I guess the ones that I sourced were, the first one I sourced was from one of the builders that I had connected with. And sort of part of a franchise is that once you have business connections, they are owned by that franchise. And obviously, there's some laws around that when you go out by yourself. But I was lucky enough to have built really great connections with those builders who just thought me out through LinkedIn. And then basically my business hit the ground running with a lot of those business referrals once I got started.
Yep. So here's the big question. Why modular homes and tiny homes? Like, why is this? How did you get started in that and why is that important to you?
Actually, a girl that I'd grew up with in Bowen was living here on the sunny coast, and she was working for one of the larger modular companies. And she had told me that it was really hard for their clients to source finance. And I just said to her, I'll come out, see where you work. They told me a lot of things about what they were struggling with finance. And I really just wanted to find out more and wanted to find out how we could help them. So it just really stemmed from there. And then once I started getting a little bit of an idea of how we could help, even though it's still quite minimal in the, big lending worlds, I just started reaching out to other modular builders to see if they were having the same issue, and we sort of started from there. But I also, being from North Queensland, I just see this industry as such uh, a massive need. We've got so much farmland up there, but we can't get builders. And so I think I just felt a little bit passionate about it in that sense, that I feel like this, industry can really help put more people in houses. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have assumed that everyone knows what a modular home is, but maybe we should backtrack and actually explain what we're talking about here. So, modular housing, as far as I'm aware, really popular in Europe, super popular in like Scandinavian countries, particularly. It's basically like a flat pack house. Hey.
Yeah, essentially. So modular is built at the builder's workshop. So they build it in stages. Usually, depending on the size, it will be split in two, and so there'll be a seam built in the house so that when they deliver it to the land, they put it together. Seam gets filled up, and it's a beautiful house. So yeah, and then look, there is a few different wordings around it, and I think this is where the lenders work. There's, flat pack, kit home, modular, old transportable homes, which is what we used to deal with a lot in the bank. But yeah, modulars, once you sort of see the quality, I guess when I first heard the word, I was thinking more of a miner, like a miner's little module that they have to sleep in when they go to work. But these modular homes are just the same beautiful quality you'd get as a standard build. They're just built in the factory and transported out. So,
What
yeah.
is the attraction of that?
Well, for one, it's usually an 8 to 12 week process for build. So as compared to a standard build these days, I hear from clients all the time how they've been trying for over a year to get actually a standard builder for one. Also in places, particularly if I keep going back to North Queensland, but they've just had floods. So we can't really build in scenarios like that, whereas you can build it at the factory, transport it there, put it together. So there's so many benefits in that respect of timing, being able to build it away. A lot of clients have sort of different sloping land and different areas they have to get these things into. So it just makes it easier to be able to have it in the modules and then bring it and put it together.
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities in lending a little bit later in this podcast. But first, I want to ask about your first deal. So, did you start off specializing in this area and kind of, was your first loan like for a modular home?
Probably not, only because I was getting leads from the franchise. Mine for my own business was. But yeah, it did take us a while because they are tricky, and even the lenders didn't actually know how to do them. So when we went to them going, how should we structure this? They were like, we don't actually know. So it was a little bit tricky at the start. But my first client for my own business, she actually worked at one of the modular builders that I had gone out to meet. And we got talking, and I would actually call her a friend for life now. She's such a beautiful lady. But they actually built their own modular home. So not only did she work there, but she was doing one herself. So that was actually my first loan in my business.
Yeah, awesome. And how great actually as well when you're first doing a loan to have someone who works in it. So you can be like, help me understand what this process is. If the lender's got any questions, you can kind of go and ask the specialist, as it were.
Yeah.
So you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, it was really good.
Can I ask then what sort of loan sizes we're looking at here? Because I imagine if they're, basically modular homes are going to be quite a bit smaller, I assume.
Yeah.
Are they cheaper? Like what kind of size loan would you need?
So look, they used to probably be a lot more cheaper. What we're finding now is that they are quite more in line with a standard build. And that's, there's various reasons for that. One of the reasons, I guess, is the transport cost, added on top of it. But I've forgotten
how do they transport them? Is it like on the back of a truck? Like, do you see a house on a motorway?
Yeah. They're actually on big semi-trailers, and so you see them sort of in two sections or three sections along the road. But yeah, it's such a great way that they do it. And then once they're at the blocks, they actually get permanently attached to the ground, so concreted into the ground and connected to all services. And a lot of the builders will do all of those things for you so that it's just a walk in and turn the key situation.
So you're saying though it's sort of a similar price point now to a normal build. So I guess like if you're looking at your average mortgage side, would you say it's sort of normal? You wouldn't be able to tell just from looking at the number what it was.
Yeah, that's correct. The pricing wise, they're pretty much on par with the standard builds. At the start, a lot of mine were quite small because we were doing a lot of loans in central Queensland, and it's just the size of the property that they needed, the equity available and things like that really restricted. But recently we just did two modular homes this year for over 1 million.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and with those modular homes, sometimes you've got the refinance of the land, and then the clients, usually stay with you then going forward. So it might sort of start off small sometimes, but then you've got that future business that comes from it as well.
Yeah. And how do you actually talk to the lender about modular homes? Because of course, like at the end of the day, if they're going to repossess and try and sell it, they're probably going to be like, well, how do I value this? And how do I kind of look at it? Like, is that something that they're aware of now? Or are you having to educate them?
I have done a little bit of educating in that space. Mainly, so the bank that I worked for is one of the ones that now will help with finance. And so I still know people that work there, and one of them happened to be quite high up. So I kind of was sending a few emails just trying to understand why it wasn't so easy to get finance because I couldn't quite work it out. I think the biggest contention point was the transport part. So with a standard build, it's being built on the land. But sort of as to your point, like who's got ownership and what's the value because the build is getting built somewhere else. But all of the builders have insurance, so that the builder's insured, the client's insured, so that really does cover that risk. But yes, we did do a lot of back and forward to the lenders, just explaining to them, even sort of from the builder's point of view, they were saying, we're happy for a valuer to come out at each stage if that's what you want. And I was relaying this back to the bank. And so there was a lot of back and forward trying to get something. And it obviously something must have happened because we had a policy change with two of the lenders that we use, and I think that I had a small part in that, just trying to get them to see from the other side.
Yeah. Now I'm guessing that the bank you used to work at is CBA because they're the only one that I know of that actually does this kind of financing.
Yeah, CVA and Bankwest. So I think they are owned by the same people,
Yeah.
but yes, they're
Not
the
same,
two
but
lenders.
same group. Yeah.
Yes,
That's exciting. And I think, I think you should feel proud. I think I'm going to credit you as being part of the reason why they've done it. No basis for that other than the fact that you just told me, but I'm going to take that win for you.
I'm sure there was many other people in the thing, but yeah, I definitely was persistent. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I remember actually writing that story on the Advisor or maybe Broker Daily about them coming out with this policy, and I was thinking that's really interesting, and I think particularly people in my age group, my friends, really looking at modular homes as an option and being like, particularly if you live out in a rural area, being like it's so hard trying to find a builder, or if you can find a builder that can squeeze you in, they then are like, you know what, your site is too hard to kind of try and figure out how we're going to get trucks on here. So, and all the kind of like, infrastructure you need. So being like having someone can deliver it and just sort of almost plonk it in place. Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to take a quick break here, Teresa. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about how you actually find new business then. Are you just hanging out at all of these workshops and making friends with modular home builders? Or, are you talking to clients about it at expos? I'd love to find out a bit more about how you generate leads for this specialty area. And we'll get into that just after this. So, Teresa, you were saying there about, your first client when you went out on your own for your finance broker being someone who actually worked at a modular home builder. Now, did you find that kind of one deal meant that you were then naturally being open up to other people who were working at that company? Did she tell her mates? Like, I wonder how you become like the go-to broker for this type of finance.
I think it was probably because I was very persistent. So my friend worked at the one company, so I I did become their referral person. They were using someone already from New South Wales, but I think that person was getting quite busy. So they started sending me referrals, and then I was just actively searching modular builders in my area or in Queensland and reaching out to them via emails and then going to visit them and really just having those discussions. And then within, I would say, a couple of months, I think 2 or 3 of the builders now have my contact details on their website when it comes to finance. So that's been massive for me. The one thing is, I guess, when the policy did change and the advertising came with the policy change, there wasn't so much of a need for clients to come to me. But from my side of things, I'm just happy that something changed. So it doesn't matter to me so much that the leads have kind of slowed down a little bit, because there's always builders out there that are sending clients, and there's not always one option. So I think that's the most important thing, is that our clients do have multiple options, not just one bank. So that's the benefit of having a broker. And our builders know that, because not all their clients fit into that one lender's policies.
Yeah. And so what might it be that would mean they'll be out of policy? Like, is it about income? Is it about postcode? Like, what would make them a yes or a no?
Postcode, we've also seen a few changes, I think particularly with Bank West, with self-employed. It depends on the client's income, obviously, but the different policies around that. So I think they've restricted their self-employed to 80%. So when a client comes in, we really have to just assess postcode, income, all of those things first. When we're looking at the 2 options. The hard thing is, for me, I usually like to give 5 options to my clients. So I can only give 2 when I'm dealing with modulars. And so we kind of have to do a lot of back end stuff first to make sure that it fits in with both. In some scenarios, it will only fit with one because of the postcode thing. So yeah, it can be a little bit restrictive in that sense. But yeah.
And aside from modular homes, and I've sort of coupled like smaller houses together here. So like, modular homes and tiny homes. Did you find that when you started writing modular, people were then like, what about a tiny home? I just want to plonk something that I don't actually have to, build too much on.
Yeah, absolutely. We do get a lot of inquiries actually from tiny home companies, because their clients are trying to find finance. So there is a need for that out there as well. Unfortunately, the banks, if it's not secured to the land, which a tiny home usually is, and it's on wheels. So we can't do it through a normal home loan process, but there is actually personal lenders who will lend for these homes up to a certain amount. So I've learned about so many different alternative style builds, like shed builds are going off in New South Wales. They're just sheds that are created into these beautiful homes. So there's so many different alternative options out there now, and I guess it's just hoping that the lenders can just adjust things slightly so that we can, be flexible to let people build, as long as they're obviously good structures that aren't going to fall down.
Yeah. Well, I think this is such a key thing, isn't it? Because the whole problem we have at the moment in Australia is supply. And a lot of people are like, I've got the land space, but I don't have either the money to build a second property right next to my house, or, really, I don't necessarily want a second property right there, but I will consider a granny flat or a shed or a tiny home on my land that I can maybe Airbnb, or maybe my kids can move into, or my elderly parent can move into. I think so many people now are looking at this. Are you seeing that? Absolutely. Are you seeing strong demand for this type of housing now?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of my builders have basically told me that they have doubled, if not tripled, in inquiries. We see a lot of first home buyers who the unfortunate thing is there's still a few government lending policies that don't match together. So I think first home buyers grant, you can get the first home buyers grant for building on family land. but we can't do that with a loan because the land's not in the client's name. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of children who want to build on their family land, and they want to put these modular homes there, but it just won't sort of fit into that standard thing that they want. But it has opened the door for so many people to, or someone, I've got many clients who have bought the land and are just living in a shed that they've built because that's all they could afford at the time.
Yeah.
Whereas modulars have, or tiny homes have really opened the door to fit more in people's budgets. Some of the modular companies do match standard construction now, but there is some a little bit on the next level down that are still really affordable, and if done right, can save like 100 or 100,000 for the clients in that build. So it is becoming an option for people who maybe have their land already, but just haven't been able to afford to put a standard structure there.
Yeah, and as I say, I think a lot of people are looking at that as an option, and particularly for things like, recovering from floods or fire, where you might have the land, but you don't have a building, needing to find some shelter and putting it on your land quickly. Really important, obviously, and with natural disasters becoming a big thing, I think a lot of people are looking at that too. So when it comes to actually writing a modular home loan, it's hard to say, how does that process differ? Like, is there anything that you have to do that you wouldn't normally do in the mortgage process?
Really, both lenders that we deal with treat it like standard loans. So the rates are the same, the structures are the same. The only real thing that is different is how the progressive schedule is set out. So it used to be when I first started that the banks didn't pay the builder until the end, once it was on the land and connected, which is a lot for the builders. And that's why it was usually a lot of the bigger builders that would be able to kind of absorb that cost. But a lot of the smaller modular companies just couldn't do that. But now both lenders have an adjustment that we can do on their progress payments, and depending on the equity and whatever the equation is that each bank has laid out, depends on how much we can release and in what stages for each bank. So basically, once we know the lender and we've got sort of the figures of the build and the land, we can work out what that progress schedule looks like. But apart from that, that's the only real difference from a standard construction.
Yeah. And is this the only type of loan do you do, or do you do other sort of, normal, if I say, standard traditional PAYG type mortgages as well?
Yeah, we still do all types of finance. We still do personal loans, commercial loans, and home and investment loans. But I just think probably I would say these days it used to be probably 95% was modular. These days it's probably around 80 to 85% would be our modular home finance. But we do still get a lot of other finance options as well, which is good.
Now you're saying
it's nice to have a little break.
Yeah, and just try something new. You're saying we there. So who's we? Do you have other people on your team? Are you using any sort of offshore, onshore? What does your structure look like?
So it's just me and my beautiful assistant, Mel. So she is from offshore. She's from a company, Affordable Staff, who we work with. And she's been with us for a year and she's really amazing. So I didn't actually realize how much I needed her until I got her. So it was really good because I was trying to do everything myself, just really not thinking I had the budget to try and pay someone else. But the funny thing was once we brought Mel on, I do say we when it's only me, but once I brought Mel on, we got a bit busier. So it kind of helped pay for the cost anyway, probably because she was helping us move things through a bit faster than I could by myself.
Yeah.
So it has been a great win for us.
What kind of things is Mel doing?
So Mel's in charge of basically the start sort of process. So we get an inquiry, she'll reach out to the client and book them in. And then she will, send out the document retrieval link and basically get the file ready for me so that I can start doing, my assessment stuff in the background, like loan loan choice and structure and all the rest of it. And then she's really good. Lately, she's been doing our, if we do get any MRIs through, like she's been managing them for me as well, which it's been amazing just to know that someone else has eyes on the documents and can see rather than me getting emails at like on a Sunday night and just, filing it somewhere. And then some days I'd be like, where did I file that?
Yeah.
So she's really helped me, have a little bit more structure because you're a really structured person until you have to run a business by yourself. And then structure just sometimes goes out the window.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think so many brokers listening to this will probably be like, I hear you too. That's totally so many people, small business owners, having to wear so many hats.
Yes.
So now when you actually look at the kind of process for writing a loan, I wonder, like, is most of your business face to face? Do you do any kind of online stuff? Like, do you have an office that people walk up to and walk in, do meetings at? Like, how do you actually do what you do?
I'm quite lucky in the fact that I get to work from home. So my office is my home. And a lot of our appointments are actually online. So via phone, via email. We do video chats. And occasionally, if they are on the Sunshine Coast, because a lot of our client base with the modular homes are actually national. So we have people all over Australia. So we can't always meet them face to face. But if I am lucky enough that they are on the Sunshine Coast, we definitely try and, meet face to face. I do find, though, a lot of clients, they don't really care. They just want you to do what they need you to do. And so they're happy to just do a phone call and, you do what you need to do in that respect. And yeah, they're happy for that because they're busy people too, I guess. So.
Yeah. So how do you find these people who are in other states? Is it just word of mouth? Are you advertising?
A lot of it does come from Google search because I think obviously we've done a lot of work with the modulars and it has helped our name being on the builders' websites because they do an inquiry with the builder. A lot of my builders will actually meet with the client and then send them my details straight away, even if they have a broker. Because I think their experience is even if the client has a broker or has gone to a bank, they still don't quite know the process. So they kind of say, oh, just in case you need a second opinion, here's Teresa's details. So a lot of the ones we've got from outside Queensland have come from builders, or we have an architect in New South Wales that used to work with one of the builders and now he still sends us deals as well. So I think it's a bit of word of mouth and a bit of Google search, I think.
Have you ever done any advertising or like going to like a trade show for modular homes, anything like that?
No, I haven't. I do probably do a lot of social media stuff, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I just try to be consistent with posting and, tagging in, doing my hashtags.
Yeah.
I try to be really consistent with blogging on the website, just because I know that can sort of help. But apart from that, we haven't been to any shows or anything like that. Just really, I think that in-person connection stuff that we do with our builders, I think that's just kind of been enough. There was a time last year that I couldn't actually leave the desk because we were so busy. So, but I'm conscious of times like that is still when you need to be proactive with getting leads because then it does slow down and I think the work that you do in that time really helps. So it's a really tricky balance sometimes, but yeah, most of it just comes from those leads.
And you'll know this from coming to the Better Business Summit, but obviously a lot of what we're talking about at the moment is like, well, how do you get your brokerage to rank on things like ChatGPT and on AI platforms? Like, what are they looking for? How do you make sure that you're found? And I think you having already such a strong niche in modular construction and modular homes, really beneficial. But I'm sure you'll be spending loads of time now doing all your homework from Better Business and implementing all of those things and top tips and strategies on how to actually make sure people are finding you. Do you have any kind of like things that you sort of are like, well, I'm super keen on learning about this particular thing, or anything that you think at the moment is happening in the modular construction space or the tiny home space that you think, is maybe going to be a big trend?
Look, I think the whole thing is just a big trend at the moment. Well, not a trend. I think it's just actually sort of taking off. So for me, I think I'm just going to be focusing a lot on that. Being on the Sunshine Coast, though, there is a lot of business opportunity here. So for me personally, I really would like to tap into the commercial side of things a lot more as well, because there's people who are looking to build modulars as we had someone just recently build a modular home childcare.
Oh, wow.
So both sort of spaces can blend together, but once again, because it's a commercial product, there's not really a policy around it, so it's kind of that tricky road again as well. But I feel like it's such a great thing to look into. So that's my next thing.
Well, I'll be asking you a little bit more about that in a bit. But before I do, you mentioned about having a person offshore about. And I always think this is so interesting to ask, because I think so many brokers, as you said, when you're busy, are like, I would love to hire someone, but I haven't got the time to train them. Or I would, when it's quiet, thinking I'd love to hire someone, but I don't know if I have enough business to support their salary. So it's kind of like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But you obviously really love the route you took with affordable staff and choosing Mel. So I wonder, like, if you had any advice to a broker who's thinking about bringing in support and is a bit nervous about doing it, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, I had spoken to a lot of other brokers who had similar experience, and I really take a lot of value in listening to other people who have kind of walked that path before. So I heard from a few broker friends their experiences, and to be honest, I did actually start with them with one person, and it didn't quite work out. So it wasn't always smooth sailing. And I actually, after that time, I think we lasted maybe a month or so, I was ready to just give up. And I thought, no, I'm going to be a solo person for the rest of my business. And then I spoke to a few of my friends, and they were using the same company and just were telling me how amazing their staff was. So I just gave it one more time. And I really do think it's just finding the person, just like anywhere, if you bring staff on, it's finding someone that really gels with the business. And I think when I had originally set out what I wanted in a person, it probably wasn't as specific as I needed it at the start. But having that small trial, I guess, with someone, I realized that I needed someone to like chase me and pull me up on things. I needed someone a little bit more proactive that didn't quite need to ask me lots of questions, but was also curious and wanted to know why things worked that way, because that's the person I really, needed in the business. And I think once that was refined, it really helped to know sort of specifically what you need. And it's not always what you think you need. It's I don't know, there's a little bit more to it. Sometimes you need someone else to come in and go, no, you don't need that. You need this person who's basically the opposite of what you are.
Yes. And I think that is a great life lesson for everyone. Like, I know whether it's onshore or offshore, hiring and keeping staff is so difficult for everybody, because it comes down to, cultural alignment, it comes down to skill set, but it also comes down to, as you said there, like you being prepared for having somebody else in your world and in your business to work alongside you. And I'm sure, again, many people are probably like, oh, I don't want someone who's going to challenge me. I want someone who just does everything. But if you don't get challenged, you don't grow.
I know. Well, I really need someone to check on me sometimes, just to check on, because we all make mistakes, and I think having someone who felt confident enough to go, oh, hey, you misspelled that word, or you did something wrong. I value that. It doesn't mean at the time I'm like, oh, annoyed about it or whatever, like annoyed at myself mainly. But I think having someone like that to keep you accountable is probably more the word. I think that's really the value in finding someone in your team, is someone who can keep you accountable and really just grow with you.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to take a quick break here, Teresa. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about what's your plan for the future? What are you doing to grow your business, if anything? What sort of your biggest bugbears are in industry at the moment, and what dream products you would like the lenders to come out with, and we'll get into that just after this. So Teresa, looking at all the things you were talking about there with modular finance, and you hinted at it, I think, a little bit earlier, but I've been keen to find out from our broker podcast guests around if you could develop a dream product. Is there like a hole in the market where you're like, you know what we need this? What would it be?
Modular finance. I feel like there's still a lot of work to do in the modular space. So ideally having a modular home loan product that was pretty much like a standard build, having something like that would be amazing, and also more options for clients, because that best duty comes down to being able to offer clients multiple options, which is why I love being a broker. And it's kind of turned out I'm back at the bank in a way.
I'm sure they don't mind.
No, I know they don't mind. But I really do think that is a massive gap in the market. And also, as we're talking about, just alternative builds that are happening that are, still sticking in normal regulations, but are housing people. Because for me, modular construction has just got that potential to be part of the solution for the housing crisis, and all of these other little alternative options are as well. So I think that's sort of something that we could work on a bit more. Yes.
Is there anything specific? Let me say like 3 things that you would want a modular finance loan to have that maybe it doesn't already have, or that you think needs to have more choice in. What would the top 3 priorities be for you in a modular finance loan?
More lenders, better progress schedule, because one of the lenders release all of the middle part all at once to the builder, and sometimes that could be 200 and something thousand rather than progressive schedule. So I think a better progressive schedule that works with the clients and the builders. And
how are rates?
Rates are actually, they offer the same rates as they would for a standard construction.
Okay.
But more choice lender-wise actually would be better in that sense as well. So yeah, rates would be one of them.
Do you think there needs to be a separate product for commercial modular finance?
I would say there would probably have to be, just with the way that commercial loans are set out, like timeframes and things like that. I feel like there probably would need to be a different product, and depending on what that structure looks like, yeah, the finance would have to be a bit different. Obviously, the rates would be very different because there's a lot of unsecure stuff there. But also with commercial, you can use existing assets and things like that. So it would be quite interesting. But I do think they'd have to have a separate product.
Looking at your broking career so far, what have been your biggest challenges or frustrations? Do you have any bugbears that about how the industry or how lending works in the broker channel?
Obviously, and I've rattled off lots about the modular, but that has been a not so much. It's been more of a challenge for me, and it's not always an easy road. Like, they're very complicated. We do hit hurdles often, and sometimes the lenders don't necessarily know their policy, so it is a lot of back and forward with assessors trying to get them to see their policy. So that's a big thing for me, and I guess just like many brokers, the clawback thing has stung me a few times, and not for any issue of myself or my clients, just life events. We're in tight affordability times. People are having to sell sometimes. Life things are happening, and so I think more of a scaled system. I absolutely understand why lenders have them in place, but I think a scaled system or something like that would be amazing, just because, it is, we put in a lot of work as brokers, and I only know a handful of brokers that would charge a fee for what we do. And to know that, on a Friday when you get excited because you know that you're going to get paid, and then you get a statement and you've had a clawback, and for circumstances that were beyond your power, that is a bit disheartening,
Yeah.
because if you worked in a bank and someone discharged their loan, the banks would still get paid. So I know there's a lot of more things around it than that, but I guess that's probably one of the tricky things. Just being a solo business owner too, and a single mum, that income is so important to us, and we put in so much work to earn it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds quite stressful, but obviously there's so many silver linings and things that you love
Yes.
about broking. It's kept you in the industry. What do you most enjoy about your job?
I really love the people. And I think not only my amazing clients and the builders and the other business connections that we have, but also the other brokers that I get to meet. Today I went to a MFAA event, and just seeing other brokers, and, our state manager, he is an amazing character. So I think just I love the people in the industry and always learning from them. And I know that we're all sort of going through similar stuff. And I think what I do miss about being in a bank structure is being on a floor with other people that do the same job as you, and being able to kind of rattle off things to them. So going to events like this and the Better Business Summit the other day, it really just kind of gives me that feel, that warm fuzzies of being
Yeah.
around other colleagues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do love that.
And what do you do to unwind and de-stress when you've had a tough day?
I like to run. So I have done it for many years. I find it is my it really helps clear my mind. I actually do it really early in the morning, so I like to get it done before I start my work day. But yeah, it really, really helps me. So, and we live so close to the beach. So if I've done the run already and I need some more extra downtime, I just go hang out at the beach.
Lovely. How far are you running?
Well, it depends. I did a New Zealand an ultra run in New Zealand this year. It was 21K. We've got a we've got a Noosa Ultra this weekend, but I'm only doing the 15K because I'm still getting
Only.
over I'm
Easy.
still getting
Yeah.
over New Zealand. But I'm very slow, but I love it.
Oh, I am impressed that you can even run that far. I can barely even walk that far. So good for you. Good for you. And I love that you're taking the time to actually make sure you're looking after your physical and mental well-being. As you said, like going for a run in the morning sets you out right. But when you do have a tough day, going to the beach and decompressing, so important.
Yeah.
Teresa, thank you so much for joining me to talk about everything you're doing. Before I let you go, I would love to maybe offer some advice to any new brokers when it comes to succeeding in broking, whether they're specializing in modular finance or not. What advice would you give them if they're just starting out on their journey?
I would say just don't get overwhelmed in all the noise, because sometimes we're told to have fancy, shiny things to get started, and we really don't need that. All we really need is to, work closely with your aggregator, because they've usually got all the tools that you need. But then just sort of get out there and start making some amazing connections with people. And I think that if you can use that as your core to start with, connecting, the rest of the stuff will kind of fall into place. And as you start bringing in the income, then you can get the fancy websites and the fancy photos and all of that stuff. But I do see, I do see a lot of my mentoring clients fall into that thing of, wanting to put out a lot of money at the start, but it's probably best to hold on to at least a couple of months, if you can, of income for yourself, just until you get on your feet.
Yeah. And just in closing for you, what's next? Where are you going to take your business next?
Well, we are going into the finance education space a lot more. So we have Your Finance Lounge, which is our podcast, and there's a few courses on there, but I need to kind of build that up a little bit more. And so that's really just to help our community as well, just to learn basics about finance. And then I've just recently been endorsed from MFAA to be a broker mentor. So I've kind of set up another little avenue to work on that this year as well. So I really love the mentoring the new brokers, because, we've all been at that start stage. So I really love that.
I love that. And congratulations on being an accredited mentor. It's not easy to get onto that list. So well done you.
Thank you.
And Teressa, thank you so much for sharing your story here with us on the Advisor Podcast Network. We really appreciate your time, and so fascinating seeing what interesting and amazing things brokers are doing like yourself to help make the Great Australian Dream come true, whatever shape or form that may take.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
If you've got any questions for me or for Teressa, then do feel free to reach out. You can reach me at editor@theadvisor.com.au and Teressa at yourfinancebroker.co, where she's Senior Finance Broker and Director. Of course, pick a brain about modular finance loans. I'm sure she's eager to talk to you and teach you. And if you're a lender, it sounds like she's got lots of ideas for what she'd like to see and policy. So yeah, I really hope that we can make this happen for you, Teressa, and get some more modular finance options out there. Do make sure, if you haven't already bought your ticket to the Better Business Summit and Better Business Awards, that you do so. We're in Adelaide tomorrow on Thursday. Is that tomorrow? No. We're in Adelaide on Thursday the 18th, which is on Thursday. Today is Tuesday. And then we're going on to the rest of the country. We're in WA the week after that, again on Thursday. We're having a little break for Easter, and then we're back with Sydney and Melbourne. So much great content in the Better Business Summit this year. We're talking about AI and how you can make sure your brokerage is surfacing. We're looking at how the top 25 brokerages run their businesses, what their structure looks like, what their operations look like. They've got operations centric, really, at this Better Business Summit this year. We're looking at scaling. We've got the COO of the Sydney Swans, Drew Arthurson, talking about how they build brand awareness and really make sure they're operating at peak performance. Plus Maxine Horn, who was the founder of Phone Zone and CEO of Vita Group, one of the biggest Australian female entrepreneurs in history. She's also talking to us at the Better Business Summit about business advice that she has learned along the way, both in her own business operations, but also dealing with businesses on Shark Tank, where she is a shark. Plus much, much more. And we hope to see you there. betterbusinesssummit.com.au. Check it all out. We're thrilled to be back running in partnership with NAB for the 13th year. And we hope to see as many of you as possible there. If not for the summit, then for the awards, which are also coming up. And we're looking forward to crowning the leaders of each state and territory in the coming months. Check it all out, theadvisor.com.au.